Welcome to the Nailed It Wall.
Welcome to episode 64 of the Nailed It Wall. I'm Mr. Lane, the STEM guy.
And I'm Miss Scofield.
On this week's episode, we're going to talk about a roller coaster of donors choose and our love for pandas. Panda. Cue our Kevin Hart music. All right, Miss Scofield. As we start off every episode, we have to know, how did you nail it this week?
This whole episode highlights how we nailed it, but I will branch out. I would say one of the things I'm really proud about this year is trying to partner better on campus. I feel like that's something that's really important to both of us, collaboration. However, I'm really trying to do that in all areas, whether it's with EL, the SPED department, or other grade levels. And we just finished our fossil unit, and I talked to some of the other science teachers to find out what younger grades talk about fossils and things of that nature. And fourth grade apparently does. And so I set up an activity or a lesson that my students had to create that then they will share with a fourth grade group of kids. And they're super excited about it. And it just really makes me excited because these were the things that I started doing and was in full swing before COVID. And then COVID screeched all that to a halt. And so it's yet another thing that I really loved for my students that I've been able to bring back this year. And I'm really pumped about it.
I love that. All right, that's so exciting. COVID's not gone; it's still here. It's like it's one thing on our educational journey that we're still working those kinks out and moving forward and growing as educators, which is an exciting thing. All right, now how I nailed it this week. I mean, it just so many things when I go back to the week and think about it. A week ago, I was trying to get new tables. All right, I started the year off, I had these hexagon tables last year, or all the years that I've had, but as I've accumulated more and more stuff, there just wasn't the versatility of my classroom to move them out of the way, get rid of them, work on the floor. Like I had these like small little chunks of area where kids could code robots on the floor and actually work on the floor. And I went to our amazing Mrs. Swafford to talk to her about, and she's been giving me this brochure of things where at schools where you can order from, and I almost had a heart attack on the spot when she told me how much a single table would cost. And you have to go through vendors as a school, approved vendors, and it's highway robbery for school furniture. I was like, me and you could build these tables for $30 and have a brand new business making bank.
Yeah.
So my goal, much like my good friend Mrs. Reyes, has these whiteboard tables, and I think they might be 72 by 24. And Mrs. O, our amazing librarian media specialist, was so kind to let me borrow 3 tables until I got my feet there. So I have 3 white tables, and what would you call those other 3?
They're fold out,
6
foot fold out tables, plastic.
Which aren't great for when the kids want to color or draw and kind of work from that. But I realized with the 24-inch width that you don't really have a lot of room.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I really need 72 by 36 of these whiteboard top tables. And I figured out that they were $1,800 for one. And that wasn't even 36 inches. I didn't even get that quote. And I was kind of crestfallen. I'm like, it's going to take years. It's going to be impossible to get. I was like, I don't even know what I'm going to do.
Plus, everything is back ordered.
Oh, yeah. It takes and shipping and what they have and get them. Some people ordered things in April, May, and they just showed up like last week.
So it's crazy that way.
So I went to Mrs. Swafford.
Woohoo.
She told me there was no money. I sat there distraught for about 30 seconds, trying to collect my thoughts. And as I sat there, I was like, okay, we're going to figure this out.
Yep.
And I told you, I was like, all right, we're going to hustle so hard. That's what we do. We hustle so hard. We figure out a way. I mean, I had no tables to start the year. And somehow I managed 6 tables that aren't perfect, but they're getting the job done.
Well, and I had just so happened to get an email freakishly.
Yeah.
The timing was spot
and I didn't
on.
get the email either.
Yeah. So having had donors
On the same day, on the
choose-
Friday, going into Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, well, I think I had got another one about that earlier, but I wasn't in the donors choose mindset at that point, so I didn't really pay close attention. But as we were talking about this furniture thing, it occurred to me I just received another email from Donors Choose that morning saying that there was going to be a match day, but specifically for classroom furniture. So carry on.
So I go on, and we go on the Labor Day weekend. I'm like, all right, we got to put in for these tables. And you had the brochure because you're like, I want some new furniture too. And
You're not doing yourself justice calling it a brochure because you lugged around this heavy, heavy catalog. It is a catalog.
And my backpack everywhere I've gone.
Backpack. So it was a commitment. It was like the weight of the tables literally represented in his backpack.
And Mrs. Swafford basically made me sign my life over that I will return this catalog.
Which you did.
And I've just been carrying it around and just haven't had time to look at it and come up with a plan. You get this email, we go into the weekend, and you're like, I'm going to put in for this. You put in for 5 tables, and I was like, I'm going to go big. I'm going to go big. I put in for 6 tables. I was like, I need 6 tables. And
it was a lot of money. Way less.
Yeah.
Way less than it would have been.
Yeah. Already, it would have been, it's cut in 50%. You know, it would have gone for 6 tables, would have been $8,000.
Yeah.
To $4,000.
Yes.
And you did 5, so I think yours was like $3,100.
Yeah, that
I think
sounds
mine
about
was
right.
about $4,000. Tuesday was our Donors Choose Day, and I was doing a good job pushing yours out on our school Facebook page. I really want to get yours funded.
You were very generous.
I was being so kind. I'm like, you're the priority here. I was like, and you have some rickety tables, you have some high tables, and your kids have been complaining so much about your tables.
My tables have been in bad shape for many years, like literally. I would say since we took over, and kudos to you.
This is your 7th year with these tables.
Like you've tried to tighten them for me, help me out, but they anyway, we'll talk about them, but you continue on. Go ahead.
All right. So we put in our Donors Choose. I'm plugging yours. Like I'm getting that out there. You're sending it to your parents in your weekly newsletter. There was a match day. We thought it was on Tuesday, but it was actually Wednesday. So we're posting a little early. And you're going to talk about your students' experience. And so I wasn't really pushing mine out because I was like, I just want to get yours funded. And, I put it on Twitter and, see if anyone would bite. And then you got a couple parent donations, but you woke up Wednesday morning and you're like, it's not going to happen. You're like, I have no donations. And then our PTSO president came in and was like, have Mr. Lane push his out. So I pushed mine out. You taught me how to use Blackboard. And I realized I have 35 classes. We have about 1,000 kids in our school. I sent an email out with a plea of how important these tables are. They're not the flashiest thing, but they are the backbone of our makerspace and what the kids will be doing in our classroom. And then the donations started rolling in and rolling in and rolling in. And the comments, the comments were more valuable than their donations. People were leaving quirky STEM jokes and just saying things about their kids and how impactful my classroom is. And I was just so blown away by the words and how people came to support. It was the best day. It was like a whirlwind. Like we started the day with 0 donations, and so me and you with the 50-cent match.
50. Is that what it is? 50-cent match?
Yeah, I think it was 50%. I think it was times 2, so they matched that. And we got we got 11 tables, whiteboard tables, the size we wanted.
Yeah.
Just a dream come true in a single day. And we've just been, flummoxed is an understatement. We've just been in awe. And Donors Choose does an amazing job of getting those, basically like Amazon, getting those things to you as soon as possible. No waiting months and months and POs and going through the district. And so shout out to Donors Choose of how fast they get those supplies in teachers' hands and how impactful it is.
And the fact that they are choosing vendors that are actually an affordable option, which that's huge because the people they're partnering with are offering us things that we can fund. A lot of those ones that are the district approved vendors, they're out of our price range. So that's tough for us.
Completely.
Yeah. So that Donors Choose, that really, and there was a lot For the most part, when you and I have tried to do a Donors Choose, I would say a majority of the things that we're looking for are available through them.
Yeah, and it's truly, and that's not always the case for all teachers, but
No,
for us,
yeah, but for us,
what we need, we totally
majority
love it.
of the time.
And Panda Express, I love their orange
Yes.
chicken. I get the 2 helpings, like with white rice. Like,
I love that you just gave your order.
I know your dad loves Panda Express.
Yeah, my dad.
And my daughter recently just started eating orange chicken. I'm like, we got to go to Panda Express, and and talk about classroom furniture is what the kids love, and it's what they're in. And you do a good job with decor. You'll find, you'll bring in lounge chairs, sofa chairs, like to kind of have that thing. And the fact that Panda Express and the Save the Pandas Foundation did this. I mean, I was watching how much funds were left throughout the day as donations were coming in, and I was like, oh, I just want to get these funded. And just like as the day, like talk about a roller coaster, you're teaching, but you're also checking your project like every minute that you have a free moment, and you're just inching closer and closer and closer.
Well, first of all, I want to say something about the Panda Express situation. Number one, I want to write a specific thing just to their corporate headquarters, because there's a lot of things, a lot of causes, a lot of places you can put your money as a company. But for educators, we value and appreciate businesses that partner with educators so much, because, I mean, it is a job that is multifaceted, obviously, but we as teachers, to be able to bring our kids the things that we want to do, the experiences that we want to do, we tend to tap into our own funds quite a bit. But it's not a bottomless well, and there's some things that are just out of reach for us. And the fact that companies will prioritize a day like that, where they say, what's valuable to you, what's important to you is important to us, and we're going to help you see that dream come true. That is a really amazing thing. We feel that way about the Fiesta Bowl. They do a great job. The Suns, APS. There's certain organizations that are just dedicated to the Cardinals. I don't know if they still do, but they did for a long time. And that means so much to us as educators, because the sad fact of it is, if teachers want something for their class, it is on our shoulders to hustle.
I couldn't agree more. And that's the fact of where education is today. And the cool thing, I mean, today we ran to Home Depot to get things. You're doing a glider project.
Yes.
And we'll have you share about that. And, and you're like, I'm going to get these little glues. I'm like, they're building 2 gliders. I'm like, each group needs a glue.
Funds are tight.
And you're like, I can get these 2 $6 bottles. I'm like, no, they're legit trying to get dowels onto these things. And it's so cool there. But, for the community to come out and support, I mean, it was basically all Arizona, our families and our teachers, just so impactful of what they gave to our classrooms, and eventually it goes to our students. And there's just happy moments in education, and it's when you do these little hustles and people show up for you, it just means the world to you. And share about your classroom experience.
So before we tell about the feels, because this whole process, this whole experience was just, I don't want to say it was all the highs and lows, because I don't know that we really ever felt low. I felt low
last Friday.
Yeah, we felt like we got to
$1,800 for a single table.
Yeah, that was discouraging for sure.
$8,000. That's not even including shipping and tax.
Well, and I told you I thought we missed our deadline to put in our project, so I was like, but
And I said, what did I say?
I know you said it's fine. We're in the deadline.
We're still going to submit it. It's good.
Yeah. So I think the thing, this, I feel a weight to say this. I feel that teachers often feel guilty asking for money for things. I think people don't want to be a burden. I know for me, I typically try to ask my parents, my student parents for much. I might ask for some tissues or hand sanitizers or maybe some expo markers. But in general, I try to ask for very little, because I know parenting is hard and I know kids are expensive and I get that. However, it is so important for the community to understand when teachers are reaching out that it takes a lot to be able to put yourself out there and ask for families to partner with you in that way. And, these tables, like there was a snarky comment on my project at first, saying basically, shouldn't the government be paying for that, whatever. The thing is these tables aren't for me. These tables aren't for you. Yes, it's our classroom, but number one, they're not going where we're going. They're there to provide the kids with an experience that is going to elevate their education. And the things that we are asking to bring into the classroom is because we see potential. We want to foster creativity and innovation, and we've found these ways to do that. And so when we make a plea, when a teacher is asking for the support, I just really hope that people realize that this is an opportunity to really make an impactful difference. Like it's like, yes, you can buy a coffee for a stranger, an act of kindness, but you don't really know.
We love buying me a coffee. What are you talking about?
No, I'm saying, but like, there was like that whole chicken soup for the soul, right? Where there was like that trend too, that you would buy the coffee, the meal for the person behind you. That's awesome. And I love that positivity and I love that kind act. But the person behind you may not need that, right? But a teacher asking for your help to fund something, they need it. They need it, and it's a really good opportunity to do something that's going to make a huge difference. So that's just my PSA there about that.
And the match days, if you're a teacher, if you're a parent, if you're a business organization, go all in on the match days. Like when there's a company willing to support education and teachers' projects and innovation, and whether it's a classroom set of books, your money goes 2 times, sometimes 3 times. Sometimes there's a 4 times match for these student projects for these things. And I will always think of Panda Express, and the panda might be my new favorite animal. Used to always be the Komodo dragon because of these tables. And I mean, it could take years, it could take months. I had no clue where I was going to find the funding for new tables.
Yeah. Well, I still have to fund for 3 more, but I feel so buoyed by this and emboldened, because when I decide to do that, which I probably will wait another year or whatever, I'll try and eke out the rest of this year for the other 3. However, I feel good about asking for that later on, because if I ask, it's because I really believe there's a need and I really believe it's going to make a difference. And I do. And I think there's, like for you, I know for sure that's going to make a difference in your class. The flexibility
100%.
of using that space. And so I think that's just a really important thing, because I think there's some people that get in their mind like that it's separate. Like I don't think anybody intends not to partner, but I also think we saw this somewhere. I don't remember what the concept was. When there's a lot of people invested, sometimes people don't step up because they're like, oh, they know a ton of people. Somebody else will fund. And so you're in this situation where everybody just figures that somebody else in that group is going to step up and nobody does. And as an 8th grade teacher, that is tough for me because, I don't get it. I don't have parent volunteers or whatever. It's just not the age. It's not typically an age that parents are doing that. Probably partly because their kids are like, please don't come. But when then we ask for something like that, it just means so much, because not only did Panda Express step up, not only did the SV community step up, which was just mind-blowing, but in addition, our PTSO has done a really good job committing to helping teachers when we do the hustle, when we put our DonorsChoose up. I'm really impressed with them because they've been true to their word to really come in and help clean that and complete that project for us. So shout out to all of those people.
Don't forget Mrs. Swafford.
Well, Mrs. Swafford is the genuinely,
she was
she's
like
a magician.
clapping, cheering us on.
Oh my gosh.
I even had to go up there and toot my own horn to her just because I was so excited about sending out an email to all my parents, and that was the difference. People are working and they might not see the Facebook post in the morning, and once they see that email come through, I'll be like, oh, my kid loves Miss Scofield's class. My kid loves STEM. And that little thing, social media is not always the most powerful thing, but that email was the difference for both of us getting our tables in our classroom.
Well, I will say, yes, totally agree about Mrs. Swafford. Having support and people really invested in something, like there were two people in the front office, her and Mrs. Bennett, and both of them were just so over the moon about it and really vocal about how proud they were. And that really means a lot to us, because it's like somebody recognizing, seeing what you're doing and really saying like, hey, job well done on that. That took effort and we really appreciate it. So I will talk about my experience. So we put it up early.
Oh, before you go into that,
yes,
we still have to give Mrs. Tebow a shout out.
Yes.
Much respect to Mrs. Tebow.
She's a boss.
She runs so many clubs. She does so many cool things. She's been teaching longer than I've been alive. She's from New England. She's a Red Sox fan.
She rocks.
Representing Rhode Island. And just the fact that she's been doing it this long and she's still out there crushing the DonorsChoose pages, getting hers funded. And I mean, she does not look a day over 22.
No,
like what she is doing is remarkable. And
her energy level.
Yeah. And so teachers, DonorsChoose is your best friend. And me and you, like we would write a lot of grants, and a lot of times you get a grant, that money's tied up because you have to get X amount of quotes. If they're not an approved vendor, you can't get what you need. So, but share your class. I mean, because I think that was like one of my favorite stories of the week. How you talked about the engagement and how invested your students were. Yeah.
So when we got into the swing of things, so we put it up, and then our PTSO person let us know we were a day early, which was actually a really good thing, I think, because it gave us a little bit of time to order to get some funds. But I only put it up on Twitter, I believe, and then you push it out onto the Facebook. And I put it on my personal Facebook. And partly because I have like previous parents, I have current parents, whatever. So I thought it would be
friends.
Good. I have friends, family. So, I put it up on there, and
family,
I was
step up.
I know.
So Zero donations from the fam.
But it's all good, whatevs. So don't worry, I'm coming for you. I'll circle back. So I'll circle back to them for the next one. But I thought after that first day, I told you, I was like, oh, I'm really discouraged. I did early on get 2 donations, and I was like so delighted. Like I screamed at one parent. I carpooled, thank you for your donation, because I was so thankful. So it was really slow. But then afterward, I was like, I don't know that this is, I just don't know how to generate this. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to send it out to all of the families through email. Like I'm just going to say, hey, this is a match day. It's not asking for a DonorsChoose donation. It is asking for your money to be doubled. It's like a $25 donation ends up being $75. So it's free money. And so that I needed them to partner. And so I pushed it out, and then donations started rolling in. And so I kept checking, and I would say to the kids each period, okay, so we're getting some donations. And I would talk to the kids about like what the benefit, like what was going to be happening, how quickly it would arrive, how we're going to use them. They were pretty excited. Like one of my students actually said, does it have to be parents that donate, or can kids donate too? And I was like, oh my gosh, that's the cutest.
Tugging at the heartstrings.
Oh, it's the cutest. So they were so invested. So my 5th period is my biggest class. It's my advanced class. And I had said, oh, several of your parents from this class have donated. They're like, pull up the site. So we did. And they're like, we want to see which people donated. So then we were watching, and then like there was one of my students, she was like, I said, I don't know who this is, but she's talking about, her granddaughters. And so the girl was like, that's my grandmother. And she was like, I can't believe she donated. She was so emotional. Like multiple kids were like very, very touched that their family had put in for that, because it's an investment in their experience. And that was the coolest thing. And so we're watching it. And literally, I think 5 minutes before the class time ended, all of a sudden, we reached our goal. And the whole class, yeah, it was like such a cool feeling. So the whole class cheered and we were all excited. And then I called the front office and, Mrs. Swafford and I had a moment. We were celebrating. I called you. You were literally in the middle of the lesson. You're like, not now. Because yours got funded like almost right after mine. Like it was like right, step in step with that. And so it was like a really touching bucket filling moment. And it made me feel like as a teacher, I feel like we get a lot of negative pushback. A lot of misconceptions about teachers, and it made me feel seen and appreciated, and the things that I want to offer my students, their kids, they saw as valuable. And it was a really beautiful moment.
And if you're listening, we're going to remind you, these are 8th graders. I mean, like, you have just been basically, I don't think you've touched around all week, just so excited about the investment of your kids and how excited they are. You gave shout outs, be like, you got the thing, this whole thing rolling.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you and your family. And, that's what a community is as they come together. They pick us up, and you said we didn't really have any lows. Like, you weren't very positive, but I told you it's going to be a great day. I was like, I don't know where the day is going to go. And we had no clue both of our projects would have gotten funded, and just how much that match day meant to us and where it's going to lead for our classrooms. I mean,
can I say one thing before
course.
I forget? One thing that was also cool is when I pulled up the project, kids were like, that's how much a table costs? Oh my gosh, I had no idea. So we talked about like the price of things and like the fact that was a great deal for tables, actually.
Insane. It's like 33% like what we'd buy from our vendors.
Yeah, and so then they were really excited that it had a whiteboard top, and they're like, that's cool that these are going to have that, and we're going to get to do this and this. And then they were like looking like, oh, you pay tax. Oh, and there's a processing. So like seeing how real life works. Like, yes, you have a cost, and then there's tax on that cost. And then a lot of times, because it's a service, you pay a processing fee. And then there's like there's a fee that DonorsChoose gets, but they're also offering a service where people can partner with you. So like having those conversations really was eye-opening for them, and they had no idea how expensive real life is. But so a lot of teachable
myself
moments,
included.
Yeah, I know. That's true.
I told you how many times I'm like $1,800 for a single table. I'm like, me and you could go laser cut a whiteboard, strap it on there. Like we would have a multi-billion-dollar business. So if you're listening, get into the teacher furniture game.
It's hard to though, because it's hard to become a vendor.
It is, but I mean, there is a cheaper way. And like, when you're a maker, but your students desperately were, like they'd be taking a test, that table would be squeaking and rocking.
I mean, experiments. Like when we do labs, that was a big thing, which we haven't even done with this group. But when we do labs and we're working with chemicals or things like that, I can't have the table do that. Like that is very dangerous. Anytime they're doing things in STEM class, the whole table would. And so it was just like, it was becoming very problematic. And I kept putting it off because it seemed completely audacious to imagine that I could actually be part of getting new tables. And there's just no more funds. Like there's just no funds. And so, when you do a grant, tables are a tough sell, right? They don't sound super fun to businesses. So I knew that this was going to be tricky. And you know what? Look at us. We hustled so hard.
And your one regret, you didn't go for 6, or even went bigger, and so with that, we had close to $10,000 funded. $3,000, came from, our community, between your project, my project, Mrs. Tebow's. So that's, so we got, 50% match on all of that, so left under $2,000 for PTSO to pick up the 3 projects. And, for something where you're talking about 3 classrooms that are impact, I just can't get over it. And if you're new to teaching, if you've been teaching for longer than I've been alive, like Mrs. Tebow, DonorsChoose is your friend. And match days, Mrs. Orr, shout out to her. She always says she just waits for a match day and she has projects ready to go. And she does a great job pushing her family there, and
they make it really easy
to
put a project up.
And you forget, how many conversations you're a part of at the dinner table every night. And Mrs. Basil, you left a comment, did a donation, and I sent her a text, and I was like, I just needed that. I was like, I just saved this comment for a bad day, and it just meant the world to me. And
it just by that.
buoyed. No, I was just gonna say buoyed. Well played. So it just we cannot encourage you. That's our tech tip for the week. Get on the DonorsChoose, follow those match days, set up your account right now, and find your community. I mean, we hustle so hard. You posted a TikTok. Great TikTok. We're on Twitter. We're on our Facebook page. We're doing all the little things that takes time. Send out an email to everybody, and
But dream big. Like if there's something that you really want to bring to your kids, do it. Like find a way to do it. And there's constantly companies looking to support certain kinds of projects, and so. I think that we don't want to, especially in the state of education at this point, teachers that are teaching, they want to be teaching, and we need to make things really memorable and special for kids, because that's what's going to make our jobs worth staying for.
Wow. I mean, we're just going to end it on that note. All right, people. If you can be anything, be kind. All right, if you're like us and you're on social media, you can find me on Twitter, aka x.com. Search up Mr. Lane the STEM Guy.
And me at a positive proton.
Are you a TikToker? We're on TikTok,
We
people.
Sure are.
Search up Christy Scofield. I don't think the I.c.C. pulls up there. But if you love this podcast, we like coffee. You can buy us a coffee. Buy me a coffee. Search up Mr. Lane the STEM Guy. Am I leaving anything out there?
Nope.
TikTok, Twitter, and buy me a coffee. Those are our socials, people. Catch you on the flip side.